showrunner for Evermore. If you sat into any of our sessions, then I'm just being redundant. That being said, kind of go down the road just to introduce you. We also have more of our people here, just not enough stage space. If you have questions that are directed towards any of them, I'll be more than happy to kind of direct to who the right person is to answer the particular question that's being asked. Also for my panel, just kind of shake a hand if you feel like you can answer whatever they may be asking. That being said, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Tyrell Clement. I'm a full-time actor in the park, and I also help with character creation and development in the park.
There we go. I am Warbear. I am the director of show design, and I help out just wherever I can, doing set design, set building, props, a little bit of writing here and there, and I teach archery.
Hi, I'm Troy Larson. I'm creature shop foreman, and I primarily make the specialty creatures like the puppets and mechanized characters.
I'm Rachel Bennett. I am the makeup department head. I design the hair and makeup in the park, collaborate with Logan on the prosthetics. I lead the team in applying prosthetics in the park, and work in the studio and help out where I'm needed.
Hi, I'm Mandy. I'm one of the producers and currently I'm over the Gazette, Romance, and Relationships.
I'm Logan. I'm the studio director at the park, and I'm primarily in charge of making sure that the characters are created to spec.
And then over here we have a couple of our actors joining us as well. I'll introduce Sykes, one of our resident jack of all trades in Evermore. Next to him is Chancellor Prey, who is in charge of all of our gamification and design for games and interaction in park. Next to him is Trevor Ballard, who helps with world building and system design. And then next to him is Mallory DeForest, who is our head of story. And she just makes sure that everything flows as fluid as possible. And then next to her is Christy Carr. Okay, yes. And Christy Carr is works in our costuming and wardrobe and helps to make our characters look awesome. And then next to her is a Knight of Mythos, Sarah Aron. And then right there behind is one of our lovely Evermorean bards by the name of Piper, who plays bagpipes and does a host of very crazy, entertaining things in Evermore. So this is more of a Q&A, so we're kind of just going to more open it up to you guys to kind of ask questions. I'll direct it to who I think can answer the question, and also I've cued them, you may have heard, just to shake a hand if they feel like they can answer it or want to answer it. That being said, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to all of you.
Can you guys hear us without the microphones anymore? Pretty small.
I imagine, and some of us can project, so. All right, so any questions to start off? If not, I have a ton I can ask them.
What is the one thing that you would want to tell someone who has no idea what Evermore is?
I got it!
Do you mean as in one thing, as in one word?
Use a sentence.
Okay, a sentence.
The only way to aptly pitch this is by asking a question that you yourself can answer. Have you ever wanted to go on an adventure with Gandalf or be sorted into a Hogwarts house? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Then you're willing to experience Evermore. Go on.
Yeah. I have a similar approach to that. I actually was going to a meeting about Evermore, wearing my Evermore shirt, walked into an elevator of a building I'm associated with them.
Yes, I love
Two guys at this company get in with me, and they say, Evermore, what's that? And I'm holding two dragon heads in my hand. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Elevator pitch in an elevator, cool. So the doors close, and I say, have you ever wanted to have a conversation with a dwarf or a goblin? And have you ever wanted to have a conversation with a dwarf? Sure. Ding, doors open. I said, how'd I do? They said, you did okay.
And of course we have our, our kind of standard, which is Evermore is an immersive theatrical experience unlike anything you have experienced in the world, But that still doesn't quite sell exactly what we do. Because you can say interactive, and going to the zoo can be interactive. You can buy food and give it to the animals, So to what level of that interaction and immersion really does happen? Any other questions? Yes.
So how do you prepare your actors?
So what I've been calling it lately is basically the equivalent of Navy SEAL boot camp for actors. We definitely run our performers through an intense process of just auditions. If they can make it through auditions, then we do a callback, and the callback raises the bar tremendously. And then if they make it past callbacks, then they go into a very focused, intense rehearsal. Our audition process and callback process was, we actually let outside people in this last time to kind of do notes and stuff. So there's a group known as the World Talkers, and we allowed them access to be able to see the process and be able to share that with the community. Because we've been pretty secretive about it up to this point, but we thought, well, we can always change it if we want to keep them on their toes. But ultimately, it's also good for the actors coming in to have an idea of the hurdles and hoops we're going to make them jump through. Marissa can attest to that. Yeah, and so it's basic as you memorize a monologue, and then we make you use that monologue in ways you probably have never used a monologue, from trying to create conversation, only using lines from your monologue, to having to focus on a person that you are staged in a scene with while surrounded by other people all saying their monologues, and then trying to recall what anyone outside of you and the person you're directly trying to talk to was talking about. And that's just like, that's like introduction at that point. It's like, welcome to auditions, hold on. But that will be released to the public real soon, at least that process. The rehearsal process, we're gonna be a lot more secretive of that. We've had a lot of visitors from some very, very famous other establishments that have come in and we could say be inspired, but straight out just taken a lot of things from us and incorporated into their multi-million-dollar places. And so it's an honor, but it's also like, bad on you. You know, it's like your people should have thought of these kinds of things too, rather than kind of pulling it out of us and then kind of incorporating it into their own shows.
So do you prepare them with for improv, and how do you let them know about the story world that?
Oh, so in the process of them going into performance in the park, there is improv that is involved, but it's, again, even for our improv performers, it's unlike something that they have even experienced too. Because usually with improv, you have a lot more freedom to kind of go there, and there's a lot of training that goes into it to make sure you're catering to your audience. We send out a document up to, when it's a good week, about 48 hours ahead of time. We also have to be very, very careful of our material being leaked, as has happened multiple times in the past. We've had to let actors go because they haven't been able to keep things within their NDA. That document goes out, the actors review it. Before they head into park, we allow a moment for them to be able to try and ask questions and be briefed on anything they're not sure of. And we cross our fingers and hold our post as they go out to perform, and then when they get opportunities, they either will come back to what we call point of command, or they will interact with us who aren't in character or playing a character to try and quickly get a solution for something that a world walker may have, some crazy story that they may have gotten pulled into. And yeah, a lot of it is we including the actor in like 30%. Before, when a lot of us first started, it was 100% actors writing our characters and a lot of our story. It's since changed since I've come in. It's been about a 60-40 process, but we're moving more to a 70-30. 70 meaning writing team has developed most of it. 30 is we still include the actors in the process of developing their characters, and we're always open to listen to ideas that they have.
Sometimes there's even some crazy stuff, depending on who the role's for, where we'll have some archery training as well as sword and combat,
Yeah.
all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, it really, depends on the character too, because then that.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, stage
All
combats.
pyrotechnics.
Pyrotechnics is what we've been moving into, special effects. Even the training for being inside some of our monsters and puppets and creatures and stuff, they have to be trained for that as well. And we also test a lot of that stuff on them before we further develop a lot of that stuff. Like, can you handle, a skin tight silicone mask on you for 6 hours? Are you okay with drinking in your own sweat? Then yes, absolutely, you're perfect for the job. Any other questions?
I have a question about your marketing. I'm surprised how many locals to Utah have never heard of Evermore, or they've heard of it and have no idea what it is. What is your game plan for that to draw us with your local?
Chance, you wanna
Sure.
chime in on that a little bit?
Yeah, just so what I pulled, that question sounded was kind of a two-part. What happened in the past and what are we doing in the future?
Not what happened in the past necessarily, because people just don't know about it very
Sure.
well. So what are you doing going forward to educate your local customer base?
So to change things moving forward, we're moving into an influencer marketing model, which means that we are pushing out to the only way people are actually engaging with brands anymore is by their favorite influencers telling them, do this thing.
All right.
Secondary marketing plan is walking into traditional marketing values. So commercial base, radio base, promotional printing. Even though those are hard to invest in, but at the same time, there's still a decent demographic of individuals who still get their receptive media from those types of marketing. And on the third front, that would be down to just baseline interactive content engagement, which is YouTube push, or like actually YouTube content, investing in content to push out your CEO to a digital asset version, where that hard asset digitally becomes the driving force behind investing in you as a consumer. So we invest in this content and put it and give it to you, so that way if you are in the park or not, that experience is being tied into your own experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We
thank
want
you.
everyone to be able to experience Evermore in their living room. Like, it's like at least a little bit of it. And it's a tricky thing to try and advertise in a lot of ways. And the previous management, they kind of use more traditional ways, whereas with something like this, and the whole industry is changing right now. And so all we're trying to do is kind of get ahead of that as much as we can in the 3 months of this new rulership. Yes.
You plan to franchise it?
Not at this time. We're looking at the way our park is currently as a prototype. And Logan was talking earlier about the dream is, and we kind of have plans for it, is that if we can get this small of a 14-acre set to 17-acre park successful, then we want to double that in another location. And then even double that if we're successful with that. We are looking at doing smaller installations in other cities and other states right now, and we're kind of working some deals in that avenue to maybe have something more on the LA West Coast and maybe something up in the New York kind of East Coast area too. Yes.
This is a big question, so sorry, and I'm totally okay with a short answer. And it's kind of coming from, so I've been once each season basically, so I'm not a casual fan, but I'm not, a super fan either.
Yeah.
And what's been interesting to me in the park is just watching kind of the different strategies you guys have employed to, for the guests, level of interaction type thing, everything from, the first time I went, it was very much just, kind of social level interaction, right? And there was like a little bit less structure, and then there was quest cards came in, right? And now there's like the guilds that you can join, which I think is a really great idea. I guess I'm just wondering, like, if you have some thoughts on how you kind of maneuver your way through that, and maybe some clues on where things might be headed, some hints on where things might be going.
I don't want to answer everything because I have all these amazing people up here. Anyone else want to kind of add a little bit to that?
I think we're reacting. I think we're reacting to the audience, and because this is such a new thing, and we are still defining.
Yeah.
So we want to give people what they want, and so that's why it changes.
And we really listen like really listen to our audience. Like a lot of people say, oh, we just listen to our audience. No, we read the spoilers list, we read all of those things, we take into consider. Now, most of the suggestions that people make, we've already attempted and tried and failed at those things. And so it's all about, our motto is fail faster. And Mandy,
Oh, I was like, this is really Chance's ball. I mean, he does a lot, but gamification and interaction is really his wheelhouse and what he helps to bring to it. So, do you have anything else to add to that, Jen?
Yeah, let's see. So you're talking about the game theory that essentially has been put into Park, right?
Yeah.
At least that's how I've defined it. Or as Elise's paper put, the initiation, right? In the initiation, the tutorial period is when you get involved. And the gaming industry is the magic circle. However, on our end, in the game theory that we employ currently, it's running on a beta system. And what we're doing moving forward is to cut in. I want to get that magic circle down to about 5 feet. Currently, it's it fluctuated really hard on us this season because winter sucks.
It's tough, it's really tough.
When you can only rely on indoor play spaces, it's the worst.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
Chance, also mention the layers. You're catering to different audiences.
Yep.
Right? You have not everybody who goes to the park has the same interests, right? If you're an introvert, you don't necessarily want to interact, you just want to observe, it's for you too. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's built in several layers just to accommodate different personalities.
So this game theory is structured down to about 5 different layers, which is the day-ins, which is, well, you know, me and the wife are going to take Johnny and Susie to go see what this Evermore thing's all about, down to someone like yourself, who's once every season, up to our casual clientele, which is 3 to 5, up to our regulars, which is anywhere between 10 times to 20 times a season, up to the hardcores, which are there between every night and every other night.
And then we break that down into our systems. So we look at how do we design for our day-ins, how do we design, and we have teams that are specifically over those areas that are developing more of those kinds of interactions for those key demographics. It really, really helps to kind of break our audience up in that way and try to provide something for everyone. And again, it's this, we talked in the past about trying to be more like Legos, where it's from ages 4 to 99. I mean, we want a 4-year-old to have an amazing time as much as we would love to have a 99-year-old, of which we have. We've had the whole range, and we've been told we're crazy for doing that, and we'll accept it. We'll keep being crazy.
And along with that range, there's things that we recognize that we have not been able to nail down yet. We're like, okay, we did really good on that tonight, and we neglected this. And so it's a puzzle that you really don't know what the whole picture is just yet. You might get a piece together, you're like, this works great, but this piece now neglects this piece. So
And you're pretty much seeing the entire team behind everything that you experience at Evermore. We're missing only like maybe a handful of people, but it is so tiny. Like even independent software developing game companies have like about 80 something people working on their stuff. You know, so that's why we talk about our mini hats a lot too, because it takes all of us. It takes a village to raise a town, apparently. Any other questions?
With audience participation being so integral to the progression of Evermore, and in some cases even affecting the story, what kind of challenges does that present for all of you, and how do you control for that?
I can tell a story about this, but you can too, Bobby.
Oh, I have a million, but I would rather you guys chime in.
So this happened middle of Aurora, where we had a character who flickered out to a different realm, and she was missing for a couple weeks. And we kind of played with, yeah, she's gone, that's fine. And a couple people got really invested on bringing her back. That was not something we had planned for. So I had characters running up to me, because I was on point that night, just in street clothes, going, these people want to do this, this, and this to try to contact her or bring her back. What should I do? And so then we talked to Chance and Mallory, blah, blah, okay, well, we can make this work. So it was an on-the-fly decision to do a completely new scene for a completely new, ending that we had not even considered. So we wanted these world walkers to feel justified, and we really want to help this character. No, the one that no one is helping her. We want to help her. All right, we're going to help you do that. But that was a scramble to find everyone in the park to put that together
in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and we have to do things like that. But then, like, I'll chime in with mine. When we first started, the actors wrote pretty much everything for themselves. I created this aspect of my character that had my main character that you would meet was a body thief, and so I was a soul that would hop from body to body. But most people didn't know that, and of course, I'm not going to share that with them, and no matter how close they get. But then people started to catch on a little bit by some of the little conversations and comments I would make. One of my favorite things is people would always want to do like selfie shots and stuff with me and take a photo with me, and they'd always ask permission. And so I said, "Are you afraid you're going to steal my soul? Because I don't have one." Ha 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 ha! I would laugh. And then finally, like most people brush it off. They're like, "Oh, must be part of, his being." But then eventually what ended up happening is there was a group of guests who took it very serious. And they're like, "We are going to save your soul. We are going to find your soul." They spent about 3.5 hours that evening, thanks to someone who sent them off on this crazy quest that just seriously was just made up in that moment. I quickly ran to the producers at the time and said, so that thing that I had set up about almost 3 seasons ago, it's just been activated. And then all of us were like, ah! And we're like trying to figure out like how to deal with it. And so in the end, I didn't want, after they spent all that time, I didn't want to do a thing where I just shut it down. Because that would be the worst thing. I just spent 3 hours of my night to hit a dead end. And so I played it off to an extent, and then that ended up expanding this major story arc that happened last summer that changed the entire season in so many ways, just because the being that I was possessing was basically a mass homicidal murderer, so and that they just unleashed upon the park, so changed everything really quick, and when we had to shift a lot. We weren't as structured back then. We're definitely a lot more structured now. I hope that answered it a little bit. At least some insight into those crazy moments, Any others?
You said something about you'd summarize the 2020 season and tell us what's new in it.
Okay, for 2020, we are trying to do some, we wanted to shift some things. Last year we were dark for such a long period of time. So story-wise, there's some things that will be happening in the narrative that's going to open the portal to Mythos far earlier. So we will see the Mythos season, which last year was during our summer, has now shifted to the spring season. And there are some things that have already happened in this season and the previous season that has hinted at this crazy cosmic shift that's happening. After that, this is a tightrope. After that, we open to a new season that we haven't before called Pyra. And Pyra is going to become kind of our summer event season. And with Pyra, there'll be a lot of interesting new characters from every realm. With our card game that was just released during New Year's, we Easter egged a lot of future content and seeding it like we do. We seed so much stuff and then we wait for it to become activated. Sometimes you can seed something that becomes active that night. Sometimes, like in my case, it was 3 seasons before mine activated. And so now a lot of these crazy little symbols that were on the cards, people are starting to see these are representations of realms to come. In Pyra, there will be at least a representative or 2 from every one of those realms. And then after that, we go back into our season of lore, which is our Halloween kind of darker season. But this time, the portal will open to an all-new realm known as Thulcia. And Thulcia, well, you'll just have to come and see. We're all like kind of stupid excited about what, we're really excited for this year. And then of course, we're creating kind of the bookend. So Mythos is our high fantasy fun, very family kind of fun, a lot of comedy and romance for the spring season. Whereas Aurora will be our other bookend, so we will be opening the realm back to Aurora, which I'm sure the fans will be very happy to see what characters get to return. Because all of those characters are about to leave us and go through the portal and won't be seen for at least a year. And we hope, because we know they're going back to fight a war to reclaim the throne, and we hope that all of them will return. That's about all I think that covers 2020, so.
Yes.
My question is, how do you do the turnaround time between seasons? You're not closed very long. So,
Oh, God.
Lots of volunteers. Warbear not getting sleep. You can add more to that, Warbear.
Feverishly is how we do the turnarounds.
It's an all hands on deck.
Right, it's all hands on deck. Let's do this. We have we make a very quick list. It's not akin to a film, in which you have one thing you must do, and then you don't know what the next thing is until this thing is halfway through, and then you're like, oh geez, what do we do? So we make a list from A to Z. We put everyone and match that with A to Z's with everyone's talents, everyone's skills, and then after the 8 to 10 hours is done, we just grab whatever letters are laying around and then run around doing those. So it's it's not crazy to see Logan, who is an amazing sculptor and creature creator, carrying a tent wall and hanging it up in a tent. And the same thing with Troy.
Yeah.
We have Troy, who's a great puppeteer and Muppet maker. Running around going, cool, Warbear, we just hung vines up in the thing for you. Like, oh, thank you so much. It's a huge family effort to just jump in and do something in less than a month sometimes, maybe sometimes less than 2 weeks, which should take 6 months to prep, maybe even a year to prep and then produce and then install. And then we have...
With a much larger team. Too.
Yes, correct. And then we have 2 days to strike. At which point it's just, all right, guys, you jump on the email, you hit team@evermore.com or whatever to try and get everyone as much as you can. I really need help. There's going to be pizza there. There's going to be everything. Please come and help remove pumpkins or Christmas trees or lights or vines, yes, or anything. Just show up and help.
Yeah.
So that's really all it is.
And then we do our best to coordinate that. Yeah. Organize the teams and coordinate to best our ability. We're hoping as we move forward with more of this, plotting and planning out, the team here definitely is planning just for 2020, whereas I have everything mapped out up to 2025 at this point. And so I don't want to dump that all on them yet. And so we're taking the little bites, but our bites get bigger every time. And every time I think that it's starting to make us feel not as anxiety ridden as we have been.
As it started out, it was just kind of a creature, as Evermore is, a creature we have to figure out how to wrangle and how to domesticate as best as can. And sometimes, you get the bull, sometimes the bull gets you. And that you see that come across in different ways too. We're really fortunate to have the team that we have. As you'll see, again, that come around in ways of sketch and concept into design. Sometimes we'll be able to have a month or a few weeks to go, okay, let's concept everything out, see what it looks like on sketch paper, do a jury on it, make sure it happens. And sometimes you just got to jump in and build blind and go, good enough, let's just go with this. Which, again, we are spoiled with the team that we have that are able to do that hairpin turns.
We do try to lead the subsequent seasons by starting production on them in the middle of the season we're in. So for instance, in the middle of Aurora, we shifted gears to start building what we could with the amount of time we had for Mythos. So it's not just the spacing between them.
Sure.
That would, even what we have is near impossible. The 2-3 weeks in between seasons is really tough to do, especially like you said, with all the pop-up ideas. So, okay, come on, we're building a bridge.
And we have to set it up that way, so then that way because set is what matters most during that in-between time. And so we all have to be prepared and far enough along on the projects we're doing that we can drop everything and focus on set. in that moment. And by the time we get to 2021, we'll be about almost 2.5 seasons ahead. And so while Aurora starts to open, we'll already be developing for our summer and our fall show.
Fabulous.
And that helps our shop tremendously, because it takes a lot of time to build as many creatures and characters as they do, and then with costuming, you know, you've got 85 possible new characters that you have to design in a few months. It's intense.
And whereas we differ in film in that aspect, we're building stuff that has to last multiple seasons, whereas like Universal Studios, Halloween Horror Nights, or anything in film, you spend 6 months to a year designing or concept designing, building, in everything to last for maybe a week, a month,
at most,
and then they chuck it. Whereas ours, we're like build. This has to last for as long as
Save,
it can.
hold, retain. And so, yeah, absolutely, recycle, reuse.
And that creates problems or challenges, I guess, for the writing team. You know, if we have a character in the park that just falls by the way of the elements, take the fake king, for instance, he just got his butt kicked by the elements. So we have to write characters out sometimes for those reasons.
Oh no, that character's person.
We've also become pretty good at being creative with the use of assets that we are no longer using, that we can cannibalize to a degree and roll that into new characters that I don't think the public noticed that we've used this piece of armor previously, and just now it's painted differently or whatever. But we, you guys know. But we've learned how to make those assets last longer, even once we retire them, because and it's important to us too, because that tells us with everything we build, we know that it's eventually going to be utilized again. So we put our heart and soul into it, and it's not just something we build to throw away every single time. So there's a lot more love and care that goes into each thing.
We don't have that luxury either, you know, where it's just like everything's disposable. In the back.
You said that when the World Walkers come in and they change the story on you, and you have to switch everything within 30 minutes.
Sometimes less.
How do you let everybody, all the actors know without them breaking character?
Mouth.
That would be mine, right?
Yeah, so I was just going to get you to say that in mine.
Well, we're in plain, a lot of us are in plain clothes. We have at least one person a night who's running point. Yeah, he walks around and then our actors are amazing at staying in character. It's incredibly, the way to make them break is to endanger their safety. Please don't do it. But no, so it's pretty easy actually as to come up and just sort of be casual, like, we're walking, be like, by the way, 30 minutes, this is the thing. And oftentimes, if we have some more explained to them, it's a thing of like, when you can break away, I will be in this building, you'll find me. And then we have a little powwow with them.
We have our little hiding spots too,
We have
where
hiding
we
spots.
kind of pull
It's like,
people
hey,
in.
you should come this direction with me.
Maybe behind the tiny moss so I can fill you in on all the story changes that just happened.
Yeah, we've got really good at eye contact. If I come up and look at you and I'm like, then it's like, okay, I gotta go with that again.
We try to not vocalize it as much as possible.
Or vice versa, our actors know, I need something for you, they find you eye contact, and it's like, okay, I'm going to stand right here and, until you can break away. So it's a two-way street, knowing where they can find us, and also them knowing how to communicate with us.
Staying stationed in areas helps them a lot. So they know I can always go to this area and I can find Mandy or Mallory, in that area to answer questions.
And many of the full-timers have characters in park as well. So if need be, that it needs to be character-to-character conversation, we just have some characters go up and we'll have pull the other person away and have a short little conversation in character, update them on what's going to be happening, and then we'll part ways.
And that creates a whole other slew of insanity, because they're like, wait, those characters never talk. Why are they having a secret conversation now? And then they start going, and then before we know it, now we've just created this whole, conflict that's happening between us just because we just needed to go, hey, I'm taking my break in 5 minutes. So I need to talk to you.
Sometimes set just happens to put a dragon head on a wall in a tavern and not tell anyone. And the dragon trainer walks in like Ace Ventura Part 2 and freaks out because there's a dragon's head on it.
Yeah.
And then the guys that did it are just like, yeah. And the guys that did it are like, yeah, I had no idea who did that. We're out. Idiots. Yeah, dumb.
And again, that was I was talking earlier about how a lot of our departments before I came on were almost like islands unto themselves. And so a lot of those kind of things were happening because there just wasn't good, clear communication. We were dealing a lot better with those kinds of things now. And then sometimes there's just like, I just put it up and okay.
Yeah. Which they've had a lot of practice at doing. So when the dragon said, theoretical dragon's head did go up on the wall, everyone freaked out. It was part of a plan that was set up in like less than a 5-minute thing where I'm like, cool, this guy bought it and put it up there and it pissed everyone else off. And it became a really fun story to goof off with.
Which those are great. I mean, it's sometimes that conflict just emerges that you can build a quick narrative around for something that you were never expecting to do in that evening at all. Like no one plans it until the moment it needed to be planned. Yes.
Something more for the actors. When you're doing like theater or film, I feel like regardless of how fleshed out your character is, you're only in that character for like a short amount of time, and then you go back to being you. But for the actors, well, sometimes, yeah. For the actors, I just wanted to know, A, like what it's like to like portray a character for so long on different days, under different occasions and stuff like that. And then B, do you ever feel like your character, or like your life is bleeding into your character, or vice versa, that your character is bleeding out into your life?
Oh, yeah.
And just like how you either maintain that balance, does it help, does it hurt, like what are the hurdles that you have to overcome?
Well, it's very difficult. It depends if you're stuck in this for 30 to 40 hours a week, more than you're even speaking normally because you can't do much of anything else.
Sometimes you have to slap it out.
Yeah, I wake up speaking in dialect sometimes. I've disciplined my pets in dialect sometimes. I find myself dropping in and out of it a lot. As for character, it's not much of a bleed for me. I've learned, I was very method in the beginning, but I learned how to really break away from that and to separate myself from characters that I completely inhabit. But before going into part, I always take that moment to really focus myself and let go of Bobby and become the being that I need to be. And then you commit to it. Our first season, we were doing, some of us are doing 8 to almost 10-hour sessions, 5 days a week. And so you're looking at like 40 to 50 hours in character, which again, in film, Daniel Day-Lewis does it because when he's offset, he stays in character, you know? Whereas no, it's still our job, we're required to stay in. And again, it's different for every performer, how we all approach the craft and how we deal with those aspects. We do communicate with each other to try and share what works for us and what's working for us, and maybe we can share those ideas. But could I have maybe Sir Ron take a moment and break character? And
You should have.
And just kind of share your process.
Well, in that case, my name is Danny. And the very fact that he had to tell me to break character should indicate some amount of the answer I'm going to click. I can't do other accents anymore. Every character I portray in Dungeons and Dragons is just Scottish now. But a lot of the stuff, there was a lot of bleed over with intonation, and especially as you go through a dialect and as you spend that long in a dialect, part of the thing that makes it so convincing is that you stay with it and you stick with it so long. I started saying I to things instead of yes.
I texted.
Yeah, I've texted I mean yes to multiple people.
Yes.
A very interesting actual aspect is that Iran is a very different person than from who I am, and so I never really would go method. I would take certain aspects of it for emotional responses if I needed them,
but actually Iran is a much more confident person than I am. And at a certain point, I think within the past year, I've literally thought, now would Iran put up with this? No, so you're not going to. And so it's honestly helped me with certain anxieties that I have as a real person, to be able to step into the boots of at least of multiple different people and to be able to look at things from their perspective. And it just honestly, it kind of helps me understand different people more. I haven't always been Iran. Last Lore I portrayed, last Aurora, I portrayed King Irik, who was a very different person from even myself and Iran. And it's such an interesting concept to be able to go through. And it is part of that, a lot of the characters have their backstory written, some of the original ones didn't, but it's still a very interesting improvisational aspect of, now how did this person who I have been given respond in this scenario versus this person that I have built, how would they respond in this scenario? It just becomes a very interesting dynamic to deal with, and then as you take that home, being able to analyze like what worked, what didn't work, and make changes that need to be made.
Yeah, and kind of adding even to that process where we're talking about dialect and those kinds of things too. It's at the point we used to make the joke, because I live in Salt Lake, and so we make the joke by Draper, I usually become Bobby again. And so as we're leaving, I'd be talking like this in South Diamonds, and I'm in the calls, like I'm Bobby, but I'm sounding like my character, and it's that weird hybrid phase. Some people can just instantly drop in and out of it, where it is definitely more of a phasing kind of process for me.
I've never heard Danny's voice before. I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I didn't know I heard it, I realized it. Because even while I would be getting dressed in my armor and while they're fitting me in it, I would just be in character.
I just thought that you hired a Scottish actor.
Well, I appreciate that a little more.
And for whom it's different, like buys for each person. Myself, it depends on what happened that night. Sometimes getting out of character is actually a lot more work than getting into character, because I've played the same character for about 9 months, and she's gone through different iterations of herself, but getting out of her sometimes is a lot harder. So I'll text her and be like, I'm gonna be later tonight. I still have to come back with the character. I haven't been able to part ways with her, because one of the things that helps me is by the time I step through my door at home, Kyra's gone, and it's 100% Mandy. But sometimes, depending on how emotional a night has been, it takes a lot longer. That for me helps my life at home, because Scott doesn't see Kyra, he sees Mandy, except sometimes when we're at the grocery store, certain words trigger my accent. But other than that,
I was just gonna say, I can really relate to this, not as an actor, but have you ever been to the grid? Anybody drive the grid? What is? Yeah, same thing. When you leave the grid and you get in your car, you arrive like a bat out of hell. That's you know, the freeway, you're like, dude, slow down.
I was just gonna say that these guys are so in character that when we have like a real problem to deal with, we have to talk to somebody at the site. They're like giving us park information. We're like, what are you talking about? No, I just need to know where so and so is, so we can handle this particular problem, and they're twisting it into a way that works within their character.
Because we're always being watched.
It's a lot.
Yeah, we're always being watched, so we can't ever drop character. You never know. Yeah. Oh, and that's the best. Like when people you know come and they purposely try to break you, you know, so your friends will show up and do their best to just break you. And which is, we love it. Like, bring it. You know.
When we had Justin Black and he was playing the Barrel Goblin, he was supposed to be in it, and I'm like, why aren't you in the Barrel Goblin? He's like being his other character, and I'm like, no, seriously, drop it and go be in the Barrel Goblin.
Go do your other job. And the insight to add, we're kind of have to wrap here a sec, but the insight I love, what Danny was saying is, there's so much that as performers we learn from our characters too, and they give us strengths and sometimes weaknesses that lead into our own personal lives. I am I am definitely not as flirtatious as the character that I played, but oh my god, that character like flirted with, I mean, he flirted with the table, like, I mean, it was like, it was insane, whereas I'm very awkward in that sense, like, I'm sweet, but I'm not like, oh, hello, how you doing, Michelle, like, everyone,
My favorite villain is Postman.
yeah. Oh yeah, so even Sir Philip, who cannot remember, or could not, out of character, cannot remember people's names, will not forget almost a single World Walker name while he's in character. And the crazy part about it is, even if you came months before, he may at most go, tell me the letter of your first, and then boom. Like it's insane. It's like you're almost a different person in a sense, even the way your brain functions.
He is, because he's told me the story at his other job. He said, I couldn't remember someone's name. And I was trying to remember it, and also posture I had was Philip Humphrey, and I can remember it. But I couldn't remember before I got into that character.
Because
So that's split second.
because the physical aspects, a lot of us work that into so where we can kind of physically transform into the character, so we'll have like something to warm us into that character. The same thing with dialect, you'll have a phrase that you'll say in particular dialect to help you get the accent right to shift in. So it'll kind of adjust your mouth and your physical positioning so that you can sound more authentic. And that being said, that's our time, y'all. Thank you so much for many of us will roughly be lingering around throughout the day, and some of us will still be here tomorrow. So feel free to come up, chat with us if we didn't get an opportunity to talk to you.